Okay, moving on. Some more factoring. We're going to switch it up here, and we are going to be using the shortcut to factor a quadratic trinomial. So you'll notice here that our a values are going to equal 1, meaning that when we find our magic number, those two factors of our magic number are going to become the two factors of our polynomial. So this first example is very straightforward. Notice the equation already equals 0. So our magic number is negative 54. And I need two numbers that multiply to equal negative 54 and add to equal positive 3. So my two factors are 9 and negative 6, which means the factors of my polynomial are k plus 9 and k minus 6, and that equals 0. Set each individual factor equal to 0. And solve. Example 6. Please notice on example 6 that the equation does not equal 0. So we're going to take this 5y and subtract 5y from each side. Make sure that you put your polynomial on the left side in standard form. So we have y squared followed by the minus 5y minus the 84 equals 0. My magic number is negative 84. What two factors multiply to equal negative 84 and add together to equal negative 5? That would be negative 12 and positive 7. So the factored form of this trinomial is y minus 12 and y plus 7, and that equals 0. Set your factors equal to 0. Y minus 12 equals 0. Y plus 7 equals 0. So y equals, add 12 to each side, 12, and y equals, subtract 7 from each side, negative 7. Okay, you'll notice on this next example, my lead coefficient, my a value, that first number in front of x squared, is not 1. So you should automatically tell yourself, hey, what's the GCF? Notice all three of my numbers are divisible by 2. So I have a GCF of 2, so I'm going to divide everything by 2, and that leaves me with the polynomial x squared minus 3x equals 28. Okay, now that I've taken my GCF out, you'll notice that GCF doesn't have any sort of variable attached to it. It's just a number. We can ignore it from now on, okay? So our equation must equal 0, so we need to subtract the 28 from each side. X squared minus 3x minus 28 equals 0. Okay, our magic number is negative 28. So what two numbers multiply to equal negative 28 and add to equal negative 3? That would be negative 7 and positive 4. So my factors are x minus 7 and x plus 4 equals 0. Set each factor equal to 0. Add 7 to each side for our first equation to get x equals 7. Subtract 4 from each side on our second equation to get x equals negative 4. All right, last example using our shortcut. Set up correctly to equal 0. So my magic number is 25. What multiplies to equal 25 and adds to equal negative 10? That would be negative 5 and negative 5. Notice your two factors are the same. So our polynomial becomes x minus 5 and x minus 5 equals 0. Remember, when the two binomials are the same, I can write this as x minus 5 squared is equal to 0. So I'm only going to have one solution for this equation. X minus 5 equals 0. Add 5 to each side. X is equal to 5 is my one and only solution. Notice that on example 9, our a value is not 1. It's 10g squared. So that tells me, hey, I can't use my shortcut here. All right, so let's start by just making this equation equal to 0 by subtracting that 29g from each side. So I have 10g squared minus 29g plus 10 is equal to 0. My magic number is 100. What multiplies to equal 100 and adds to negative 29? Maybe negative 25 and negative 4. So we're going to use our AC grouping factoring method here. So I've got 10g squared minus 25g minus 4g plus 10. Group the first two terms, group the last two terms. GCF of my first group is 5g, and when I divide by 5g, I have 2g minus 5 remaining. The GCF of my second grouping would be a negative 2. Divide by negative 2 leaves me with 2g minus 5. So my factored form would be 2g minus 5 and 5g minus 2. And that whole equation, of course, equals 0. So now I take my two factors and set them each equal to 0. 2g minus 5 is 0. And 5g minus 2 is also 0. So we're going to solve that equation. Okay, for our first equation, we would add the 5 to each side. So 2g is equal to 5 divided by 2. So g would be equal to 5 over 2. Same thing as 5 or 2.5 or 2.5. Okay, second equation, we add the 2 to each side. So 5g is equal to 2. You're going to divide by the 5, so g is going to be equal to 2 over 5. Or you could use 0.4 as your answer.